Hello everyone, you're watching SKLIVE. I'm your host Indrajit Basu. Today we have Dr. Tharoor with us. Thanks a lot, sir, for joining us on SKLIVE. What a day for India.
Absolutely unbelievable day, isn't it? I mean, I find myself still in a state of some disbelief. What a thrilling day for the cricket fan. Amazing. And especially for the Indian cricket fan.
No, but did you get up early in the morning at 5? I did.
Oh, then you're a better man than I am. What I do is I cheat. I record it from 5, and then I wake up at 7 and watch it on fast forwarding through the commercial breaks. But I do manage to see every ball at the end.
So, but you are such a great cricket fan. I can tell you one thing. Yesterday, I was talking to former Indian cricketer Anshuman Gaikwad. At 10 o'clock, he told me, I asked him, can India win this test match? 324. He said, we can.
Oh, good for him. You know, I tell you, when we lost those 20 overs, 25 overs or so because of rain yesterday evening, I thought that knocked it out, because in a test match, scoring at 4.5 and over is never an easy proposition, right? I mean, even though scoring rates have accelerated with the onset of ODI and T20 cricket, the fact is this is the Gabba, a paradise for fast bowlers. It's a fifth-day pitch, and even on TV, there are so many cracks visible on the pitch. The ball could shoot off in any direction. I thought expecting our team to chase 328 in a day. And remember, in the entire series, we haven't made 320 in a day anywhere. So I said, how can we expect a victory? So I said, either draw or defeat. But I said, if somehow Rohit gets going along with Gill and makes a big opening partnership, maybe there is a prospect then of victory. And then when Rohit got out, my heart sank, and I said, now it's only draw or defeat. And let's see what happens, whether we are able to last for a draw. But then these guys just performed miracles. It was astonishing.
Yes. And you know what was really special was also Pujara taking those 10 blows on his body. Test cricket is not about
I mean, that is so true, because when you think in terms of what this team had to go through, the injuries, the disappearance of their captain with his paternity leave, the unexpected pitchforking into the side of young and inexperienced players. Absolutely. When you saw the team going through all of that, and then you found that they come in, they had all the bad luck possible in the fourth innings in Adelaide, when everything that could be nicked was nicked, every catch that could be taken was caught. One must have thought at the end of that drubbing in Adelaide that this team is toast. We remember all the so-called experts who announced that it was going to be a 4-0 defeat in the series for India, right? All these former cricketers, Englishmen, Australians, and so on. And these chaps picked themselves up. Ajinkya Rahane, in his quiet, understated way, molded them into a team of winners. They won Melbourne convincingly. They fought gamely. I mean, Vihari with a torn hamstring, Ashwin with his back spasms, somehow managed to survive taking body blows. They drew the third test. And in the fourth, there is Pujara taking hit after hit after hit on all parts of his anatomy, including at one point I thought he'd broken a knuckle or a finger. You remember the time when he was in such visible agony that he collapsed on the ground. And yet he carried on. I mean, the guts and gumption these guys showed. I'm just in awe of the spirit of this team.
Is this the biggest test win? I mean, you've seen so many test victories. Is it the biggest in your book?
You know, Indranil, for my generation, it is difficult to eclipse 1971, when we beat the mighty West Indies in the West Indies and the haughty England in England. And I must say that many of us thought that was the acme, the greatest moment of cricketing glory that we had ever expected to see in our lifetimes as Indian fans. Then the World Cup '83, when we won that. Again, you know, so when there's a first of a kind of victory, it is always special. Now, we did have an earlier series victory in Australia, so this wasn't a first. But that was against an Australian side where they could claim we were depleted, we didn't have Smith and Warner, and of course, Labuschagne had not yet emerged. Now we are world beaters, try and take us on. And you know, we faced Australia with the strongest bowling attack in the world.
Yes.
With the best bowler in the world, Pat Cummins, by far number one on the bowling list.
Absolutely.
in prime form and fitness, with Warner, Smith, and Labuschagne all playing. And we managed to defeat them with a side where we had so many handicaps, so many people injured that in the first 11 in the first test match, 7 were not playing in the fourth test match. Now that is unbelievable. And so it is not that the victory alone and the scoreline alone is what makes it special. It's the way in which, despite these incredible challenges, the team came through. That's what makes it special. And if I can say one more thing, Ranil, I've tweeted this also. I just want to pay a special tribute to Ajinkya Rahane. He's, of course, captained India 5 times. He's never lost. But what is particularly striking about his captaincy is that he took a team of people being dismissed as no-hopers, including some raw, inexperienced players, and he molded them into a team of winners. And he did so in a quiet, understated style, no flamboyance, no flash and flare, no thumping of his chest, no shouting visibly at players, nothing. Just quietly took them together. And what I thought really clinched it for me was when he was presented the trophy for having won the series. He called the entire team over to join him, and he handed over the trophy to the most junior member of the team, Natarajan, to be the first one to hold. What an extraordinary gesture, because a great leader, it seems to me, has to be one who gives ownership of his greatest triumphs to his teammates. He sees them as stakeholders, not as subordinates. And that Ajinkya Rahane did. And to my mind, I think this was absolutely a glory moment for Indian cricket. I am just so pleased and proud of it.
Yesterday, I was a little surprised when likes of Ponting were quoted as saying in the media that Indians will break up at some point because they have been really resisting a lot of pressure. But I mean, how? I mean, they are big players, and how do they make such judgments before the thing is actually not over?
Well, I mean, the thing is that yes, it's not over, and in some extraordinary ways, it is over because that moment of climax is now behind us. We will relish it and savor it for time to come. I do want to say that if I were to look back on many of the things about this victory, as somebody who happens to be in the world of politics, I have to say I wish that we saw this kind of leadership in our politics. I wish that we saw this kind of team spirit in our country. What is for me the most memorable thing about this is watching what India can be when a group of people come together collectively, when it's never about me, but about us, about the country, about the collective, and the team has to go forward and win. I wish we could have more of that in more domains of our life and work in our country.
So what we've seen from outside, when Virat is captaining the side, he often sees a Pujara should bat like Virat. He expects that as a captain. But, a captain like Rahane allowed everyone to, go and, be themselves. That's so important in any sport, whether it's cricket.
Yeah. That's right. I mean, I think that what was interesting is a different style of this. I mean, when Pujara said to the interviewers after the match that Rahane told him, you just play your own game. I will try and push the scoring rate to give ourselves an outside chance. That's a selfless action by a captain, but it's also a supportive action to his teammate. He knows that Pujara is at his best by leaving balls that other batsmen would try and hit.
Yeah.
Equally, he never told Pant or others, don't go for it. It's very interesting. Everyone who came right up to Washington Sundar clearly came believing they could pull it off. When Washington Sundar came in, there were still 60-odd runs to be made, not that many overs, and at least a 50-50 chance that we would just not get there. We would not be able to score against these excellent bowlers enough runs fast enough. But they went for it. Think of the confidence and the guts that have been instilled in them. When I hear the expression New India in politics, I don't happen to agree with much of it because it seems to me to be built on the ruins of what is old India. But in cricket, when Kohli talks about New India, I see it in these youngsters. I see it in the story of a Mohammad Siraj, the son of a rickshaw driver in Hyderabad, dirt scrabble poor, whose cricket is what enables his family finally to be able to afford their own home, for his father to give up pulling a rickshaw. Then his father dies at the beginning of the tour, this heartbroken young man says, no, I won't go back to my beloved father's funeral because his dream was that I should play for the country and bring glory to the country. I want to do that. Even though he had not been picked for the first test, but he wanted to do that. He stayed on. And look at him. He becomes the highest wicket taker on the tour for the Indian side. Or look at Natarajan, from a really poor village, far, far away from urban life and all the familiar things of color television, watches of matches on cricket. His village is 300, 400 kilometers from Chennai, I'm told. He grows up there. And by earning his spurs in the Tamil Nadu League, he actually acquires the attention of the state selectors, gets into an IPL team, comes into prominence, has an outstanding season, even though he's not picked for the Australian tour. But then one person who is picked, Varun Chakravarti, is unable to go, and Natarajan is sent, principally intended to be a net bowler and a backup for the T20 team. And he ends the tour having made his debut in all three areas and having actually startled the country by taking 3 wickets in his debut bowling performance. Now, you look at all these stories, it's impossible not to be moved. But you also have to be admiring of the spirit that propels these young people forward. This is what India is all about. This is what New India is. This is the India that is going tomorrow to build a glorious future in the 21st century. And that's something that I hope everyone listens to.
And it's never individual. It's always a team which will help you win a tournament or a series. It's never going to be individual can win matches for you. This is the biggest lesson, isn't it, sir?
Exactly. And I these are the points I've been making. The nature of the team spirit, the nature of the leadership, the aspirational quality of the young, driven young people who, despite their lack of experience, came in with confidence and guts and did it. And then if I can go back to pure cricket, I will add one more thing, that the bench strength of the Indian cricket team is a tribute to the way in which we built up the cricketing system in our country. I mean, these youngsters who have acquired confidence from series of A tours, these youngsters who acquired confidence from rubbing shoulders with and confronting the world's best players in the IPL, they're not phased. I mean, a young person making a debut in the 70s or 80s or 90s would never have had any of these advantages. Okay, by the 90s, A tours had started, but there weren't that many. I think Cheteshwar Pujara had gone maybe 2 A tours before he made his India debut, maybe 3 tops. Siraj has played some 50-odd matches for India A around the world. Yeah. And for him, this is one more match, he can do it. That kind of thing is absolutely wonderful.
When we lost that pink ball test in Adelaide and Virat Kohli was going for his paternity leave, what were your thoughts?
My thoughts are the same as everybody else. We are cooked. My feeling was the one guy who had batted well in that first innings, or the guy who batted the best in the first innings, was Virat Kohli. He was out in unlucky circumstances. Now in the second innings, of course, he got a superb ball, whatever, but at least he tried to play positively. Without him, looking at the rest of the batting lineup, I said, what hope do we have? And certainly when these experts all confidently pronounced 4-0 drubbing, I had a lingering feeling that if we can somehow manage to save a match or two, perhaps with some help from the weather, who knows, that we'll be lucky, but we are not going to win this series anymore. 38 all-out, I've never seen in my lifetime. I saw the 42 all-out, 1974 against England. And when I thought never in my lifetime would India do so badly. We got 38. I said, by chance, 36, I beg your pardon.
36.
I thought, no chance. This is the worst thing imaginable. And look where they picked up and recovered from there. I think that is the spirit, and I think there is simply no words enough. Shami was injured in that first test. Virat left. Prithvi, who had been such an exciting talent and had done so well, suddenly had developed this, frankly, surprising new weakness outside the off stump. And we were looking around saying, what's going to happen to us? Just so recently, Mayank Agarwal was scoring centuries every other match. Suddenly he's got 2 single-digit scores and doesn't look like he's comfortable at all against Australian pace. There was a sense that, my gosh, we are in deep trouble. Look at what happened after that. I must say that, Rahane set the example in Melbourne, that second test, not only by leading the team to victory, but by scoring that century, 112 himself. That's no small matter. And blooding youngsters like Gill, like Siraj, and eventually, of course, in the last test, Shardul, Sundar, Natarajan all had to come in and prove that they could make it to the very, very best levels. I just feel so much admiration. I'm really at a loss for words to say the same thing over and over again that everyone is thinking, but there you are.
Yeah, we are really proud today. Really, I mean, what an exciting day. But Ajinkya Rahane's 100 in Melbourne actually set the ball rolling, don't you think?
I think so. In fact, if I remember, unless I'm having a senior moment and forgetting, it's the only century in the series for India. And for Australia, there was Labuschagne's century and Smith's in the previous test. But basically, this has not been a high-scoring series of many centuries. There have been lots of 30s, 40s, and 50s on both sides. But that century was a statement by Rahane, a statement of, to use Kohli's favorite word, a statement of intent. But it was also part of setting an example that helped inspire these very confident young people who were supporting him.
I mean, a lot have been said when Kohli left for his paternity leave. I mean, what were your thoughts that time? And, we felt he should have easily played Melbourne Test match, and he had informed the board 2 months before. And he had all the rights to decide whether to play for the country or to go and attend his wife. So, but he chose to do that, go for his paternity leave. I mean, what was your thought? I mean, shouldn't he have stayed back or something like that?
No, I mean, obviously, I think as a cricket fan, I would have been happy if he'd stayed back. But as a human being, as a father myself, and frankly, as an advocate of equal rights, I think that his wife deserved his support if she sought it and he wanted to give it to her. It was very much within his rights to do so. And I would never deny, if he was my son, I would say, go for it, do what's the right thing. So I will not criticize that decision. As a cricket fan, I felt, my gosh, now that's really a body blow for us, in many, many ways. But look, at the end of the day, what happened? We actually came out of this none the worse for wear for Virat's absence. And I think that this particular team ended up needing Rahane's style of leadership.
Absolutely.
He gave them confidence, he gave them inspiration. In some ways, perhaps Virat is almost too much the superhuman for others to believe they can be like him. Rahane is a hard worker himself, and his grit, his determination clearly rubbed off on the rest of his team.
Absolutely. So there's a lot been said about Rohit Sharma, being a white ball specialist, and he's not being able to do enough justice as a test cricketer. What are your thoughts? Today, we expected a lot out of him. He got out, I think, around 5:20 early in the morning. And I thought, we're going for a draw. But fortunately, what are your thoughts on Rohit Sharma?
I had the same feeling when I saw Rohit's dismissal. But I will say that Rohit is somebody I've been admiring. I first saw him playing for Mumbai in the Ranji Trophy. And I saw a couple of sublime knocks by the guy. And I said, this chap is going places. There's something so effortless and magical about his batting. I also saw him getting out cheaply with some careless shots. I'm still talking Ranji Trophy level. And I said, of course, but these are flaws he'll iron out, etc. I have never understood the gulf between his test performances and his one-day performances. The Rohit Sharma who can batter the best bowlers in the world into submission in one-day matches and T20s. Why does he suddenly become shell-shocked in test matches? I don't know. I think the key has been now to give him the freedom to open, because his habit of taking a few balls to settle down is perfect at the opening level. It makes him look more at a loss if he does that in the middle order. And then once he gets going, I thought that 45, there wasn't a false note until he got out. I mean, it just looks so sublime and silken smooth and effortless, those strokes of his. And you thought, my gosh, it's like watching poetry on a cricket field, right? And then, of course, he does one ungainly shot for which he's cramped for room and he gets caught. So I just think that the talent is so great you can't leave him out. I think as long as he is fit enough to play, which is has been another issue with him, I would play him even if he gives us these maddening cameos where he gets out too early for the wrong reasons. Today's dismissal was not really his fault. It was an outstanding delivery, which he had to play. But the earlier dismissal in the first innings is what I was referring to. Doesn't matter. I think I would rather take the occasional wonderful knock, which he's given us also as an opening batsman. And I would never allow anyone to forget his first 2 centuries in his first 2 test matches. Didn't everyone say, my God, we found a star? Well, you may say he never lived up to it thereafter, but I think he's now got a new lease of life. This is his second innings as an opening batsman. Give him time. I expect the best out of him against England, in India, and I'm hoping that he will carry on in this vein. Plus, of course, in the white ball game, he may be the greatest one-day batsman ever and the greatest T20 batsman beyond dispute. I say maybe for ODIs because people still swear by Viv Richards. though Rohit's numbers are better. But in T20s, because Viv Rich has never played T20s, I would say that Sharma has no peer, no equal.
I was quite impressed with Gill also. Shubman Gill is quite an opener.
Beautiful.
He's got a right to.
I thought it was very interesting that they chose to persist with Gill as an opener even after admitting Mayank into the 11. Because Mayank is somebody who's opened all his life, and Gill has only recently started opening for his state team and, of course, for India. As you remember, when he made his ODI debut for India, it was at number 3. And it's just that he has become an opener. He's comfortable with cello. And then he did so well in his second and third test matches, the 45 and 35 and 1, the 50 in the third match. I'm sure that the selector said, no, he looks so comfortable and natural in that slot, let him continue to do it. And I'm very glad they stuck with him because he is truly awe-inspiring. There's so many things about him that are magnificent to watch. But one of the things that most impressed me about a 21-year-old is that air of calm and confidence. There is no nervous energy around the guy. There is no tick. There is no sign of uncertainty. There is no exaggerated gesture. This is a guy who acts like he's got a very old head on his shoulders. If he manages to carry on like this for a couple of years, he's going to be the next captain of India after Kohli. I have no doubt about it. Because he has such an extraordinary presence and a sense of being collected, self-collectedness, that I think his future is absolutely assured.
And Rishabh Pant, he played the innings of his life. That was brilliant.
The thing is that Pant is a much better batsman than he is a wicketkeeper. So the question is, what do we do with the guy? Because, he will potentially win you a match with his batting. And he will potentially lose you a match by dropping a catch or missing a stumping or whatever. And this is and especially with spinners up in Indian conditions. I really think it's an extraordinary dilemma. I remember I won't name anybody, but an expert on Indian cricket telling me, what we should do is we should play Pant in foreign countries where we principally use pacemen, because standing back, he can't make that many mistakes. And we should use Saha in India or in turning pitches abroad, because Pant cannot stand up to the spinners the way in which Saha can. And I thought, that makes sense. But now we're coming up to India. Saha seems, by that logic, to be the obvious pick, but you can't afford to leave out Pant, the batsman. The guy has played in 2 successive tests, innings of the highest pedigree, 97 and 89 not out, and nearly won us a match. And if he hadn't got out, he could still have won us the match. Yeah. And the 89 not out, he did win us the match. So I would say that we have to play Pant for his batting, and if we, because of the balance of the side, we can't accommodate Saha, we'll just have to, give him more and more remedial coaching as a keeper, because I don't see how or either that or we will have to really sort of find some out-of-the-box solutions. I mean, one solution that I once was thinking about before he got injured was whether KL Rahul could come in as a keeper and Pant purely as a batsman, because Rahul seems a safer keeper, even though he's got less experience as a full-time keeper than Pant has, and is not a regular keeper for his home state. In some ways, there will be a time when he'll be back in the side as a batsman, I feel. And when that happens, let him keep and let Pant bat. Certainly in ODIs and T20s, it's an option worth exploring. What they did in the last 2 series, as you know, is Rahul kept and Pant was dropped. Maybe what we should do is let Rahul keep but let Pant play as a batsman in these white ball matches.
Absolutely. So, don't you think Australian bowlers also tried so many things? Once you try so many things, it may not work. And they didn't go they didn't use the conditions that smartly, pitching the ball out.
No, I don't think you're being fair at all. I think they did an outstanding job. Our batsmen were just equal to the task. Frankly, even though I'm a great admirer of Ashwin, I thought that with Lyon, every ball Lyon looked like he could take a wicket. Whereas with Ashwin, there were balls that took wickets, but there were very many balls that didn't. So I will say that Lyon, as an off-spinner on display, even though he got very few wickets in the series, was, I thought, the most impressive bowler on display amongst the 3 off-spinners we saw. 4 if you count the 1 delivery of Rohit Sharma. But otherwise, my thinking is that Cummins was easily the best bowler on display on both sides. Though Stark had a bad last test, he had a superb first test, which people are forgetting. And Hazelwood was consistently effective throughout the series. So do not take it away by blaming the Australian bowlers. I think they did pretty much everything right they could do. I think credit should be given to the Indian batsmen and the Indian bowlers. The Indian bowlers for taking 20 minutes time after time after time, 20 wickets time after time after time, which is astonishing because we don't have a reputation for taking 20 wickets abroad in every match. And aside from the first test that we lost, we took 20 wickets in every innings we bowled the Australians. Absolutely. And secondly, when it comes to the batting, the guts, the gumption, the attitude, the technique, everything, we have to praise our Indian batsmen. I will not take one bit of credit away by saying that the Australian bowlers screwed up, because I do not believe the Australian bowlers screwed up. You mark my words, the same bowlers will go and just crush South Africa in South Africa. That's what's coming up next.
Wonderful. But we have to thank Team Payne a little for dropping those catches. We have to thank him.
He had a bad series, except he had a better series with the bat than he's used to having. He had a couple of 50s, a couple of 30s. He batted well. But you're right, he did not do terribly well as a keeper. I do want to point out that he did also do some spectacular catching. It's not that he was completely a dunderhead behind the stumps. He took some great catches. He effected a couple of good runouts, all that he did. But it's also true that he made some major drops that helped us at crucial moments. True.
So before we let you go, I want to know your headline for tomorrow's newspaper. What would be the headline after a historic win like this?
I'd say Team India triumphs for all the reasons we mentioned earlier. It's been a team victory. It's been an India victory. It's a victory for Team India.
And now we hope to do well in South Africa, in England, and in New Zealand.
No, South Africa is the Australian tour of Australia.
When we go to
my point was, you said the Australian bowlers had done badly. I said, no, they did very well. And the same bowlers will crush the South Africans on behalf of Australia. When they're going next to South Africa, they'll crush them. So my point was not about our team. Our team is outstanding. I'm sorry and disappointed to see Natarajan left out of the team for the England series, simply because the boy, even if he had no chance of making it to the 11, he deserved the encouragement. But Chalo, this is the hard knocks of life. I'm sure he'll play in the white ball matches. And I really hope that this deep bench strength will continue to survive and thrive in confidence and glory.
And supporters like you, backing Indian cricket so strongly, will continue to do well. Thanks a lot for coming on SK Live on such a short notice. As always, keep watching cricket and stay safe, and see you very soon again.
All the best. Thank you so much, Indranil, and keep up the great conversations on Sportskeeda. All the best.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Good night, sir.